Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take this wiring out. Much to my chagrin, I wanted to really make this work, but just can't see that it's going to. Use this wiring on something else. There we go. Alright, wire's out. We'll use this for another project. Now before we go on, this here's a roof. These windows didn't fit very well either. Get some more light here. And I put some 5-minute epoxy around them, so now I gotta sand that down, try to make it smooth. So I sanded most of this epoxy off, and now what I'm trying to do is smooth out these windows. So basically I've gone from 150 grit to 300 grit to 600 grit sandpaper, and then I'm moving on to 1800 grit and some micro mesh. And it should shine right up, no problem. The Tamiya basic gray that I've been experimenting with a little bit here, that's a pretty good putty, but I've gotten to where I really don't want to use that for my initial putty because it's a little bit harder. And again, squadron green, yeah, it shrinks, but it gives you the best initial results without being too difficult to work. And if you can get a nice edge on it, which usually you can, then you're okay. And if you really need to, you can put on the Tamiya basic gray, which definitely does feather a little bit easier, but again, it's a little bit harder. Okay. So I've done this without having to tape much off. Took me a couple of routes or a couple of laps around it, but should be okay. I should be able to get close with this. I might have to go back and put a little bit more on. We'll see. Now just let that dry and sand that a little bit later. Well, you may be asking yourself, did Gil get his video build sequence out of order? Or did the monogram shuttle somehow disassemble itself? And the answer is that this is an entirely new orbiter, and the reason I decided to build it was because I just was not happy with the previous attempt, specifically with regards to the windows and the decision I made to putty them in. I thought about this for a while, and I realizing how much effort is involved in the overall project, with the fuel tank and the painting of the tank and the SRBs and the decal work that has to be done, the actual shuttle build-up portion of it is only a fraction of it. So I said, is it too much work to just go ahead and scrap the previous shuttle and just build a new one from scratch and try to get a better result? So I decided that that the answer to that question was no, it wasn't too much work. So I broke out a new orbiter out of my stash and am working on it now. I'm not going to subject you to this entire build over again, but it does give me an opportunity to address a couple of shortcomings of the kit that were not really adequately addressed before and that I had trouble with. And hopefully if you decide to build one of these, then you're going to be forewarned. And the first area I want to deal with is the wheel well support for the main landing gear doors and the nose landing gear door. Quite simply, there isn't any. So the original plan that I was going to do was to take this wheel well, which is a nose wheel well, and put this in the orbiter and use this as support for the main landing gear door. The Problem is this usually has the nose wheel door. The problem is this usually has the nose wheel doors molded into the plastic, and there are tabs underneath the nose wheel doors that are used to mount this nose gear well in the orbiter itself. And if you cut off the nose gear doors off of this part, you have no attachment point for this part. So this solution is not going to work. Now the solution I came up with, which I think will work, is I applied some sheet styrene underneath the wheel well area itself. And I've got some glue over here and some glue over here, and this will allow me to install the landing gear door right there over it and slide it in right so, and then essentially this will get the kind of support it needs when I do the putty work around it. Now we have a similar problem with the main gear, so I'll show you what that's all about. Here's the interior wheel well wall, and then if we do this, you can see that there really is no support for the main gear door at all. And if you put the main gear door in like so, then it's only going to attach around the edges, and even at that with some putty work. And when you go to sand all this out, you're going to get some significant stress on the door itself, and it's going to develop hairline cracks around it. So can't have that. So I'm going to take the same approach. I'm going to apply some sheet styrene, or attach some sheet styrene in over that well, and that'll give the main gear door some support. Alright, so let's look at the results of some of our effort. What I've done here is I've taken the interior bulkhead of the main landing gear wells and I've installed them, here on either side. But I only glued them on 3 sides, the fore and aft side and along the top, because I wanted to leave a small gap underneath, as you can see, because I wanted a place for the sheet styrene to actually slide under. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at the wing itself. The sheet styrene is glued in to the lower half of the wing, covering the opening of the main landing gear, and I've left a nice big tab here. And the idea is to slide this right on in, like so. Hopefully you can see that in the camera there. Maybe I'll back it up a little bit, more light, slide it in like so. And then on the flip side, on the inside, you can see the actual tab. So all I have to do now when I put this on is to glue that sheet styrene down, and that's going to give me a good amount of support for right here where I put on the main landing gear door over top of the sheet styrene. So that being the case, minimal flex, hopefully it won't crack when I'm sanding it and doing the bottom of the body work, and that's the idea. Alright, very good.